So, hello everybody. I'm glad to see you again. And today, I would love to talk about the most interesting thing for the engineering team is a budget and project management. But first of all, I would like to highlight some really very important things where that could stay in the shadow because of it's a little bit unusual angle of view of our work. So because of art is a language, it's more difficult language than a regular, than like an English language or any other language we speak. But anyway, like in every language, the most important thing is a message. So what we do, we are creating the message. The more complex the phenomenon we are trying to describe, the harder it becomes to find the right words. The same applies to the language of art. So we must break everything down into its parts and determine why what we have said requires those particular words rather than others. Before starting work on the project, the engineering team must first calculate budget and time required, right? So the question is to you guys, from what you start usually in your regular engineering routine, from what you start to calculate the budget? This is the question. May I have any answer from you guys?
Yeah, I can start. So usually the way we work, I mean, at least for this project, the way we worked, it started from identifying the concept, right, of the project, right? Usually it starts from sketches, drawings, right, understanding what you need, and then we run through the sort of a discovery process, right? We discover what's the project scope and what's the goals, right? And then we also identify some specs, some specifications that we want to achieve, because depending on the specification, your budget will vary, right? That's accuracy, and then more accurate things are more expensive, and so on and so forth. So we start from some preliminary planning, right, what we want, and then based on that, we identify sort of a high-level BOM, right, and then we come up with the effort estimation with our resources needed, and then with the pricing. So from project to project, it's just different, obviously, but for something that you need to build, right, and develop and then experiment, you usually need to account for some buffer, right? Because you will have some failed, right, tests, and then you need to count for something like you need to have your plan B. So we usually try to have some sort of a budget, right, which considers that plans, and then so we can kind of ask for the budget just one time, because imagine just going every time for asking a budget when you know each time it will cause the question. That's why it's better to plan beforehand and then ask once, right, but ask kind of a with considerable buffer, so you can have a place to wiggle. Yeah, and then the rest is really executing on the project the way you plan, so we can talk about that. Yeah, so.
Okay, yeah, absolutely right. And it works for any kind of production process people do. And I would like to highlight some specific options we have to figure out first before we start building the budget and start the project. Just like a spoiler, it's in our specific, it's impossible to give the final and exact numbers and amount because of the creation process. Like I told you at other conversations, it's a very alive thing. So that's why sometimes the decision you did at the first step could change, and that's what we just talked about in Russian before we started the record. And so I tried to organize this important things to three like levels. So okay, and first of all, like you just told, that's absolutely right. Determine the type and quantity of materials and technologies to be used, right? This is the first thing, and it's a regular. Identify the specialists specialists needed for the project, right? Okay, so have a clear understanding of the project's operational futures post-production. So that's important thing to know before you start. How much resources you will spend during the post-production using exhibitions, transportation, and everything. So that's the very important part of the budget. So okay, it's out of the production budget, but the final budget depends of what decisions you will do at the very beginning. So the art specific of transportation, it's one of the most important specifics is sometimes it's unrecoverable. So the piece is absolutely unique. So that's why the transportation and storaging is very important and specific things. Okay, ensure a thorough understanding of the project's technical structure and prepare the necessary technical documentation. And the technical documentation in our specific is, I think it's more important than the technical documentation in regular engineering, because it's like I told already, it's a unique piece. So, and after 50 years, when all of us will pass away, we need to provide for the next generation of museum and gallery people and art specialists to provide all the information of the technical idea, how to use it, how to repair it, how to keep it, and everything. So, and sometimes the original parts, and you guys, I think you know a lot about it, the original electronic parts or mechanical parts could be, the progress is very fast, right? And the program part and the technical part could be old, could become old in a few years. But sometimes it's very important. For example, if we use, I don't know, the tube TV, which is a completely old school right now. And in the 50 years, I think there will know any specialists who will really know how it works. So that's why we have to highlight all the things. We think it's easy, we think it's simple, but it's simple for us. For next generations, it could be very complicated to understand what really technical tricks need to be used. So here is some like 3 levels of figuring out what exactly we need to do. So it will help us to calculate the budget more easy. So okay, the first level is primary characteristics. It's easy, but not so much. First of all, is size, shape, color, and other basic features. So that's the first, the basic level. It's easy, but the secondary, I've called it secondary characteristics. Visual perception of weight, for example. And let me try to explain you what I'm talking about. I mean, the nature of humans' feelings works not exact. It's not depend exactly what it is you're looking at, but it depends of interpretation of our brain. So that's why, for example, the artist will tell you, I would like to see this piece very heavy. So what does it mean? It's more than weight, right? But here, let me show you how it works in a theater, for example. What is this, guys? Everybody knows, right?
It's like a weight, right? Like a weight.
Yes.
Or
Yes.
it's
Yes.
sort of
But
dollar, yeah.
Yeah. It visually it weighs how much kilograms? What do you think?
Well, visually it looks pretty light, maybe hundreds of grams or even less. Yeah, like you handling it very easily, so it feels very light.
Yeah, but if I'll put it on the table like this,
yeah, it looks like 5 kilos something, piece of
you see?
iron, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's a fake. But if it's in a static position, it looks like 5 kilos. So that's how it works. For example, I mean, if we are talking about the weight, it's more about the weight. It's about the material you're gonna use to provide the experience for the viewers' feelings. So, and the second thing is convey visual details through light and shadow. Because for some kinds of artworks in media art, the size, I mean, the basic size of the piece, it's not the final size. Because if we'll use the gallery light, so that's the thing we have to figure out at the very beginning, the shadow will be the part of the size. Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So that's why we have to count this characteristic. So it's not only how it looks like, it's about how it looks like in the context of the space, lights and shadows. And so that's why if we want to build something really light, and it's not about the real weight, we need to let more light inside the piece, right? If we want to build something really heavy, we're gonna think about the capacity of the dark colors of the other like texture or something like that. So and the third thing in the secondary characteristics list is the movement characteristics: fast, slow, smooth, sharp, for example. So and here in this case, I would like to remind you about the project you guys working on right now. And I'm pretty sure the movement characteristic was one of the basic things you was thinking about, right?
Yes, the movement, you mean? Yeah.
Movement characteristics.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
fast, slow, smooth, sharp.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's and if we're talking about the regular manipulator, which has a function to pick something up and put it down, it doesn't matter. But in case we're trying to provide the emotions, the movement characteristics, it's very specific. So I think, I'm pretty sure that's why it was one of the reasons you modified it, the program and the technical and the mechanic part.
Exactly. Yeah.
That, yeah. So that depends of the budget.
And
Does it
I
change
mean,
the budget?
not really. Maybe it even helps, depending how you change that. You know, like for example, I change a lot of things just to, you know, make the printing process easier, right? Like if you have round pieces, right, it's hard to print. But if you have more flat surfaces, right, so you can, you know, easily print and have more. You can have more kind of a stronger surface, right, as a print body. Yeah. So, so budget. I mean, budget can be changed, right? If you aiming for super smooth, super fast like movements, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
It can complicate your mechanics. It can add some additional, you know, mechanical, you know, parts, transitions, which might require some more expensive, right, motors. It
Yes.
might require some
Yes.
feedback
Exactly.
control, encoders and others. But obviously, nowadays with regular stuff, you can also get the smooth, you know, interactions if you plan it properly.
Yeah. I mean, it's that's the thing you have to keep in mind before you start. Because if, for example, if we're gonna make it more smooth, we're gonna spend more programming hours, right? So
Well,
that's
not only programming, but you might kind of radically change your design, right?
I
Which
mean,
is like a lot
just
of
for
time. Yeah,
example,
yeah,
just
of
for
course.
example, of course. So that's the very important point to make the budget more detailed before you start. So, and the third order characteristics, that's the most complicated things, I think. The form of interaction between the object and the viewer. For example, it's a contemplation or it's interactive. That depends. So, and you have to know exactly what kind of communication between the viewer and the object required. The second is in this list is the senses that should be engaged in the viewer. That's about the light, that's about the sound, that's about the space. And the third thing is whether the object is something grand or intimate. I mean, space could be very grand and very open for everybody. And that should help to communicate with the piece. Or the artist's idea is to make the space more intimate and create the very individual communication between the viewer and the piece. So that's one of the most important characteristics we have to know before we start. Because, for example, if we'll do the piece, let's use the example with the manipulator, okay? So if we'll do the piece too loud, it it will not allow us to create the let's say like a private space. If it will be located in a small room for one person, one viewer, and it requires the communication, the sound have to be very low and other characteristics of the sound, right? So, and the last thing is whether it is designed for collective interaction, that's what I told already, or to create a personal atmosphere. So when we're talking about the light, you guys exactly know what does it mean, the personal atmosphere or the collective interaction. More light, more white light for collective interaction, for example, or the just a candle light inside the small room. So that's all these things depends the budget and the project management in the art engineering depends of these things. So that's why it's so very important to communicate with an artist on every step of production, and it's very important to figure out what language we're going to use between artists and engineering team, and how we gonna explain to the artists about the technical characteristics and technical like borders we can use, and from the other side, that's very important to understand what the message the artist trying to provide to us. So once we have clarified all those aspects, we can begin build the technical specification and working on the budget. This is often where one tricky thing. This is often where the function of 3D visualization proves to be extremely helpful. While not every project can benefit from this approach, for example, video art, we can be sure that when it is possible, using 3D visualization can save a significant amount of time and resources later on. So that's why, in my experience, during years, I understood every time me and my team can use this option, 3D visualization, we have to use it before we start production. Because on this step of working on the project, we can change everything easily. And we can show the visualization to the artist, and we can discuss, for example, that's what we're just talk about, the movement characteristics, for example. It's easy to show it on a 3D visualization, but it's hard to change something if we already build the prototype or the final piece, right? So okay, guys, so that's by my opinion, that was the most important thing we have to highlight and we have to figure out before we start the budget calculation and project management.
Yeah, thank you for that. So I think it's a really good point that you just made. So typically, if you are just an engineering group, you probably miss that part when planning for the performance, right? Because like engineers, they plan that plan the development. They think about specific performance, specific action, like in the real world, like it should do this and that, but they don't really think about like in which environment it should perform, right? Because it's art installation, like how to view that, how the viewers will see, right, when they enter the room, and many aspects, right? Because the actual customer, right, for that installation is not the company or is not the someone, right? It's audience, right? It's that the process, right, which is important. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
yeah.
Uh,
So
uh,
that was interesting point. Yeah,
yeah,
thank you.
at the end of this amazing meeting, I would like to provide you one, by my opinion, very good example. And it's not about the art. It's not straightly about the art, but it's about the design. And the example is everybody. I'm pretty sure everybody knows the design of vehicle Ford Mustang 1967, right? And if we'll take the basic technical characteristic of this vehicle, it's very regular, nothing interesting. I mean, every second car in this at that time had the same characteristics. But why this car became a classic? It became a classic because people wanted to drive it. Why? Because the design idea was based on the running horse in a dynamic. So if you see the drafts of this design, you will figure out that you're looking at the running horse with all the lines following the running horse, all the lines of the design. So that's why even the car is not moving, it looks like running. That's the first thing. And the second thing is there was a revolution because the designers, they started to provide, they started to turn on other feeling channels, not only eyes of people, of customers. They want to buy their product. I'm talking about the materials they used and you can touch. So the idea was let's make the materials in the interior of the vehicle warmer, because if you, for example, if you're in winter time, you want to sit, you want to get in a warm car. So that's why the materials of the interior has to be warm, looking warm and feeling warm. So that's the example how the artistic idea could change the feeling of the communication between the piece. Doesn't matter if it's art or if it's a if it's a car or I don't know, fridge, anything. So that's why it's. But in our specific, it's the most important thing. Doesn't matter what the modern technology you used. The most important thing is what you did for the best quality of the communication between the piece and the viewer.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. Yeah, thanks for that. So it's really about like if we convert that a bit to engineering, right? Like it's really well resonates with the industrial design of the product, right? Especially for the product which is a consumer product, right? It should be visually appealing, and that's where art has been used, yeah, right, over the years to make like, computers, phones, or anything you use at home, visually appealing and kind of a nice to see and nice to touch because, it's obvious that a lot of people make their first and quick decisions based on what they see, right?
Absolutely.
not particularly what's inside and how cleverly that's organized inside, but visually, right? How nice it is. Yeah, so that's something we always try to pay attention, because you need to communicate that easily, right? You don't need to talk about how smartly you programmed it, or how many
Absolutely. Yeah,
I don't know, mechanical things you used, but like how it looks visually. But at the same time, I think we should be kind of being able to talk with the right people with the right language, right? Like kind of filtering out, if this art person, you need to talk from the art point of view. If it's a like pure engineer, from the engineering point of view, and always try to mix it to really show the point of that, right? Yeah.
absolutely. So that's why I've called it the message.
Hmm.
So the message is a very, very big thing in every creative process. So if you're like you just told me, industrial production, the message, buy me. I want you to buy me. So I if I want you to buy me, I have to be perfect, or I have to be, I don't know what, but that's the thing you have to want to do with the thing. And in art cases, this is the basic thing, is communicate me. So talk to me, listen to my message. So that's why it's impossible
Yeah.
to create
Yeah.
anything you don't understand the exact message you're trying to send.
Yeah, that's a great point, especially since we're building this installation, right? The one we have. So the point of the installation is not really to showcase the engineering, right? It's really to convey the message, which is about the coexistence of right, human, machine, AI, and all that stuff. So it's really to use the engineering to deliver the message for the different lens, right? And then I think that's very important, and that's where you start seeing that part when engineers who are just engineers, they have a very kind of a narrow look, right, on the world. Let's say, like, they have their own ways to judge and estimate and see things, right? They start developing different vision on different things, right? So because they're trying to
Absolutely.
look on something from different angle, and that's where this artistic approach comes in, right? So I'm kind of already starting to understand and feel that, right? So during this project, which is very good. So because that helps you to be a better professional in whatever industry you are. I think that's one of the benefits of being involved in this type of initiatives. Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, and every time I'm working on any project with my team, I'm using the principle of Stanislavski. Um, there is a theater school. So, and he, every time when he trying to fix the artist's work, um, he told, I don't believe you. So he was trying to turn the artist to the um, real thing he's playing. So that's why he has to believe himself. He's not the person he is the person he's playing. So that's why you have to understand, and that's why you have to believe to the message you are working on.
Yeah, that's another interesting point, because um, like that's interesting from also different point of view, right? If you bring that to the real world, right? That's really about like kind of being sure on your skills as well, right? Like when people communicate, maybe they are great in the subject, right? But they really
Absolutely, yeah.
they are not confident, they're not sure, they are shy or something, because they don't imagine the end results, they don't look on them from different angle. And I think that's really helps to also increase the level of confidence when you're delivering the specific subject. Yeah, yeah. It's always good to think about the end results from the very beginning, kind of imagining what it will be, right? What you want, what's your ideal desired stage, right? Like closing your eyes and imagining what's the reaction of people and kind of anticipating and enjoying that process, right? So that's also is helpful to not only think about the different aspects, kind of process it, but also it helps you to, like you said, kind of be in the role and then find the motivation to move forward as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and the last thing I would love to provide to you, in case if you're preparing for the exhibition with a piece, please try to think about what will happen if we'll take this piece out of the art space and put it in the middle of the road. What people will say, is it manipulator or is it an art piece? So the right answer, if they will say it's an art piece, doesn't matter where it is. That's exactly the thing we have to reach.
I see. Yeah, it's a great closing statement, right? Because it should deliver sort of a message, right, which will help them to see why it's art piece, right? Why it's not just a mechanical instrument, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you put the description, hey, hello guys, this is the art piece that means this, and that. Okay, that's work. But if you take this description out, that's nothing. If it's nothing without the description, it's nothing in itself. So in a process of preparation, the piece to the exhibition, you guys have to think about how it will be without the description. Is it still works like a message or no?
I see. Yeah. So yeah, it's basically, so visually it should have that visual aspects, right, which will tell people that, hey, it's some sort of it has some sort of relation to art, right? So it's not just a very precise some instrument. Yeah, that's a really good point. So yeah, that's something that I haven't thought yet, because we currently kind of more focused on the actual development, right? But
yes, sure.
but I really want to kind of finish the base requirements, make it to work, right? Make it function, and then I really want to focus on the art side of the world, right? Really defining the concept of art, really telling story, really making it to look like art, right? So
Absolutely.
obviously it will take time, and we also need to go through that exhibitions to see the feedback of the people, right? To see see different artists, what they say, and then eventually make it something that we can repurpose for something else as well. And then, because like manipulators are interesting because you can change the behavior and then it will be different performance, right? Because it's a multi-purpose device. Yeah.
So yeah, and never stop to communicate with an artist. In this case. Okay, guys, let's finish.
Yeah, thank you for the interesting session. I think that's a really interesting session in general, and then I think this recording will be helpful. And then yeah, I'm really grateful that you guys doing these recordings and then organizing that in your channel. I think it will be a good documentation for future purposes. Yeah.
Thank you, Andranik. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Have a good day. Bye.